Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TaskHuman Talks. I'm your host and fellow wellness provider, Jamie Carroll. And today, all the way from Serbia, we have the amazing Marija Farmer. Welcome, Marija. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Marija is a personal and professional development consultant and a theater director. And I'm so excited to jam with you today because I think that what you do is so interesting. So I know that you work with individuals, with teams, with companies and corporations as a creative consultant. And you've also created a company around theater. So I know you use a little bit of theater as well in your work with people. Tell us a little bit more about what you do in this consulting business that you have.
Okay, I'm doing something which can be recognized as a classical consulting with the companies and with the people, something which is people development, started in the area of soft skills that spread it into dealing with company values, culture, teamwork, etc. That would be this professional part.
Right.
And I'm doing for ages programs for like interested individuals, not necessarily, so it doesn't come from a business sector, corporations, for different creativity unfolding programs, let's say.
Yeah.
So that was like my parallel thing. I'm a psychologist and I'm a physical theater director. So I have two professions. And for a while, when I was younger, well, I'm still young, but
we're all still young.
I will stay young forever. But for a while, it went completely parallel. So I had my people development, and then my theater stuff, which was separate. And I was creating performances and exploring body quite a lot because it's physical. And then since I'm one person, it started to merge. And after I started to bring business elements into my performances, so they started to recognize me as being very business oriented in theater.
Yeah.
And on another side, I started to bring a lot of theater in companies, and then people from companies were happy saying, "Oh, it's coming Marija, she's going to do theater with us," which I didn't even notice. So this is how basically I start combining, and then in 2008 I branded something which I called business theater. People in New York, in London, I have colleagues working on their different techniques, so it's my unique methodology.
Awesome.
But I'm quite excited. It's very exciting mixture, I would say.
I think so. And the message I'm getting now is it's a great mixture because it's like you have like business, I feel like is that masculine kind of energy. And then you have the theater, which is that feminine, like creative side. And it's really about getting people to blend the two of them together and having a balance of energies almost.
I don't know if for energies, it's interesting how you summarize it and having something which I call for a company culture, for example. And I usually talk about the straight stuff or having a cup and then having a flow or life inside. Both of that is really important. So I'm on one side very structured. I know I have a lot of knowledge now from business, from psychology. It's really not based. I'm not coming from theater and now I talk about communication. I know quite a hell about communication. On another side, I know a lot about theater, and I write poetry, I paint, I direct, etc. So I have a lot of this flow. And I think I created quite unique mixture. And
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the business theater. So how does that work? What would a typical session look like in business theater?
Yeah, I think it sounds more scary than it is. It's actually when I started to think maybe I should kick out the word theater, because usually when you say theater, I know people have a lot of imaginations around. What I'm doing, it's a very strange theater, I would say. But depending, I'm doing workshops and I'm doing huge events now. I took it away. Maybe we do that on TaskHuman for everybody who wants to join, because virtually, I don't know, but I was doing huge events. And I was doing coaching sessions where my possibilities are limited since I usually need a lot of other bodies. But then I send people and I say, go find your friend, husband, cat.
Yeah.
And then we have a topic. Topic can be different. It can be developing creativity or conflict transformation, or it can be change management or stress management. It can be really different. So I'm having on what is the topic. And then I apply different kind of theater methodology. combined with theory and knowledge. Of course, it's not only theater.
Okay.
One thing is, for example, improv theater, classical improvisation, where we actually practice flow. And there is so many things there. I can come back because COVID and stuff. This is one of the competencies, like dealing with ambiguity, and it fills our logical brain. Then I'm doing physical theater quite a lot, talking about this flow we just talked, passion stuff, how it's based in a body. Our intuition, our sense of purpose is basically based in a body. So there are a lot of there, levels of energy, quality of the movement. I do a lot of rhythm and music. I help you to build up your body stuff in a different versions to recognize your intuitive, for example.
Right. And that's something that can be used so individually too. So you can still use these business theater techniques, some of them with just an individual person. And then also with the group.
I was forced, COVID forced me now. And now here I am on TaskHuman. So my coaching practice was a little bit like a side practice.
Okay.
I did it, but I never did commercial for it or whatever. It was somehow they asked me. So now I was like, oh my God, I need to do coaching, and I cannot really just talk. I need to introduce this creative juice, which I can bring. So I started quite a lot to develop this one-to-one technique, so I can help, as I'm saying. You get a theater task, let's say, in your week or so you need to apply it, but we still talk about some of those stuff in a coaching.
I love it. I love that. One of the things I really wanted to address today is workplace turbulence. There's so much going on, as we know, because of the state of the world. Where at the time that we're filming this, we're still dealing with COVID and the workplace, people going back to work. It looks just a lot different, and companies are like trying to figure it out, and no one really knows what's going on. So there's a lot of workplace turbulence. What is this? And like, how do you help people navigate through this during these times?
Yeah, for me, when all the crisis started and when like all this unknown thing, my first sentence was, oh my God, now the world's gonna live like me. Which was like minus this scary part and like but in terms of getting into this unknown zone, this ambiguity thing, I'm very much used to navigate that. It was like somehow, and I had a lot of different issues when it started, but this part which like, oh my God, now the familiar stuff is going on for me was like, oh my God, what are these people are talking about? And took me some time to get, but I recently developed some training, but it can also be transferred in coaching, I think. It's for me how we actually nurture our creative competencies in time of turbulences or crisis. And I need to be clear, very much definitely not learn something new and use this as a chance, because I work with the continuum. And when any kind of crisis happens, when turbulence starts, our animal, our body wants to protect itself. So the main normal regular reaction is I'm shutting down and I don't want to do anything and nobody should touch me and I'm waiting the horrible thing to pass. That's very natural and very healthy. This is saving our energy to save our life. So this is not a moment to learn new language, to start a new stuff. It's not that. That part of our psychological needs to shut down in order to survive. If a bear attacks you, the healthy thing is just close and stay calm, so you're not dancing in front of the bear. So that's one part of psychology.
Okay, I just have to like interrupt you for a second because it's so interesting that you're saying this right now, because I'm experiencing just some personal life turbulence. A lot of random shit has happened. And one of the things, and you mentioned like shutting down. So anytime we're experiencing any sort of turbulence, workplace or even personal, right? We want to like shut down, close off. And you just mentioned it's not the time to start something new.
Now I'm going to tell that.
Okay. This is what I want to get to, because I feel like even like my experience has been to start new things and then not having space and then like having this dance between how to handle that.
This is the dance. So the first part of the dance is following the psychological and or physical need for security, which is very relevant. And this is, I'm going to come back to this other part of continuum.
Okay.
This is our conservative, let's call it conservative part of us,
yes.
who really wants to protect, and it's very healthy and normal. So we need to tend that part of us, which means doing things, giving ourselves time. So everything goes slower. We need time. Aware that apathy, being like a low energy, depression, anxiety, it's normal. It's a normal part of it. So sleeping, hugging, or whatever gives you pleasure, food, something which can keep you safe, and doing safe stuff. So that means if you, now when they say change routine, now do not change your routine. So go the same streets you always use when you go to your job. So this is one part. Another part of us, talking about our creative inner whatever personality, is very, this is the turbulence times, is a joyful time for creative person. This is like the main thing, it's adventure. Huh? So the creative part of us is, oh, something is happening, even if it's scary. So it's better, of course, it's nice when you have nice of adventure, but our creative part, when it comes, it starts waking up. And thinking, okay, something else is going on. It's like opening the door where it's a heroic journey, where when stuff can kill you, but also you can make these quantum leaps. Everybody were talking now. So there is possibility. This is the liminal time where there is possibility, I really think, for people and companies. If you want to make this radical quantum leap in your life or in company or whatever, this might be the time. The door is open. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but this is the moment when your creativity can catch stuff. But this dance, I think, is the hardest thing to do. That's what I'm saying. When it's too much of fear or pain, then you are not doing your creative thing. Go there. After a while, if you comfort yourself enough, the creative part, it's like how I call this, a children thing,
the balance beam or whatever. I love that you're talking about this right now, because I'm just totally relating it to myself. I'm like, okay, this episode is done. And I'm sure some of you out there too might be thinking this when you're going through something turbulent. That's exactly how it is. It's like, I need safe things. I need to like stay in routine. I need to do things that are comfortable with. And also then it's like, oh my God, I just got this new idea. I'm like, should I be exploring this, or is this the time to start something new? And it sounds like it's like, how do we find, I don't want to say balance, because I feel like sometimes there isn't necessarily a balance.
It is balance, but it's not a balance as one stop, which everybody would sometimes imagine, like, oh my God, I'm having perfect balance. When I work a lot with different things, communication, whatever, it's really a continuum. I think the important part is to recognize you're walking. If you're stuck in one spot, either you can, because there are people now, I think, whatever reasons, are completely on this part of extreme, wow, let's go and do.
Go all in,
They are disregarding this part, and they're going to burn out. It's not And on another hand, there are companies and people who completely shut down. They stop development activities, which is, again, I'm saying natural. But on another part, if you are there, you still can be eaten by the bear. So you do need your creative eyes while you are sitting like this. Your creative eyes needs to look for the escape. They are the only one who can actually provide the escape, to say. So it's so I think it's really learning about yourself also, what is recognizing it, giving it space. So it's not either or, because people are sometimes, if you need them to be depressed and apathic for a week, eat same pudding every day, if that gives you comfort. It's gonna come back, if you let it be. The other part of us is naturally there. And then I can help also the consultancy parties when people a lot of people are not in touch with creative competencies of their own. So it's very hard sometimes to know how you can take care of this part of you who needs security. You also need to take care of this other part of you. What does it mean? It's like,
it's almost like too, I love that you said knowing ourselves and understanding ourselves, because it can be also like acceptance of where you are. Like you just said, if you need a week to lie in bed or do, or whatever, get extra sleep, do that. That's okay.
Yeah, but it's also a continuum. That's true.
Yeah.
You allow for a week, but then you also don't allow yourself forever. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And then but you allow yourself to be where you are, like, and navigate between the two whenever.
Yeah. But I think it's important talking about this creative, maybe with the turbulences, when your creative self is included, it needs to have some kind of fun or joy. So it's very, I finished psychology, and there is nothing more opposite, I think, of creativity than psychology. And they are all part of this reflection, knowing yourself, that's part of mindfulness, etc. It's one part of us. Creativity isn't something else. It's action. Without thinking, it's really there. It has fun. It doesn't really care if your life will be perfect, but it does care. Is it sensual? Is it exciting? Is it full? Even if you drop, but it's something happens, it's kind of a fullness of life. And this having fun and weird perspective, I think it's something which helps this creative self to so there are a lot of techniques I'm also offering for that. It's like really waking up your inner creative, how to say, who can then just do it for yourself. You don't need you personally to walk your
I love this tapping into creativity, because it really is like putting yourself out there. It's like the sunshine of our core, right? Like really being our true selves, and just tapping into like the fun and play of who we are. Is there like a quick technique or something that you could share with us right now?
There are a million techniques. It's not very easy. But for example, one of the techniques I was doing is actually character playing, which is breaking up our narratives of who we are. Or how we describe ourselves. I say I'm Marija, and for example, I don't know, I'm calm. Well, that's not really a description. but I'm this or that, and everybody's telling the story. And then you go on 20 years of psychotherapy to change something. I need to develop spontaneity stuff. Yeah. And then you come to my theater stuff, and I say, I don't know, just invent new Jamie, give her a name. Give her how she dresses, what she does. Really, you develop your own character. And next week, you are not Jamie anymore. You're called, I don't know, Svetlana, who is extremely calm and very rigid. You can choose things that you like, and you can choose also things that you don't like. Doesn't matter.
I love it.
I ask you to play a role in a business, with the business people, with your partners, to keep it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's extremely fun, and sometimes it's difficult, but actually you realize that your narrative about yourself is not entirely true, and usually not true. That you have all that. Of course, you're going to fall back into your old, how to say, thing. But this is really like flashing the light that already everything is there, because our creative self can lead you there very directly without, So for me, that's a joy. That's fun.
That sounds like so much fun. And I can see how that would be really beneficial too, when you're dealing with a turbulent situation, like a workplace turbulence. Switch up who the fuck you are. You know what I mean? Play someone else for a little bit. And then I love that. That's really amazing. I think
and I think really it's also the part with acceptance that you said. Yeah. It's also, when it comes to people, to team, to company, to time, is the part that there is a creative technique also deal with the facts. You're given the cards. Yeah. So for example, me and you are on the stage, and then I say, I don't want to talk to Jamie. I would prefer now to talk to, I don't know, Steve. But then they say, okay, but you got Jamie. So I can spend all my energy trying to fix that. Or I have another rules, and I say, this is called work with what's given to you. So there are a few rules I'm also applying. It's some from improv theater, some from physical, where you actually flash a new perspective on life. And I don't have a conclusion for you, You have a different perspective where you can actually take some of the stuff, from that. I think for people who are used to maybe also psychological counseling and stuff, and I'm also a psychologist. And this kind of a radical acceptance of material, but not in terms, I think something is ugly, or I think something is really boring and stupid. Right. So what? I mean, people are boring. We are boring. We are also marvelous. So it's also continuous. So it doesn't matter.
I know. This is another great one for turbulence too. Getting to a different perspective of what's going on. You know what I mean? And just like, that's great.
Yeah. And suffering is also, unfortunately, part of our lives. I mean, we cannot talking about turbulences on a personal or general society level. It's happening, and it's not happy times. So we cannot, we
can't avoid it. We can't avoid it. It's gonna
avoid it, and we need to play with the facts. And there are so many different ways how to say. We need to survive, and then we wait, and then it's a beautiful green grass afterwards, eventually coming, and then another turbulence. But I mean, that's.
I'm writing down what you just said. It was so amazing. We can't avoid suffering. We need to play with the facts. I love that. Really awesome.
Playing with the facts also can be cursing the facts and being. You have a workshop for a week where you are allowed only to complain. So you're not to say literally anything positive about anything. So it's the very opposite of a positive thinking. But when you actually go there into the extreme, which is the same thing, if you go with positive thinking to extreme, this is absurd. This is hilarious. This is insane. So this is the same version of insanity, but on another stuff, where whoever tells you, and if someone wants to share something cheerful, you're also obliged to bring them down. So you say it's going to be okay, and I say, no, it definitely will not be okay.
Gosh.
I will never, I will never fall in love again. Never.
Oh my God. This is great, because I'm still relating it to the workplace turbulence, but one of the things I'm going through personally is massive grief. And I know that like the ways in which we experience grief is different. Right. There's different not different stages, but we can lose a job. That's grief, a death, grief, a relationship, just a breakup. There's so many different aspects to grief, a loss of ourselves in some way. But with workplace turbulence and the things that are going on, that can be a grief also in some sense. These techniques, these theater techniques also seem just like a great way to help someone through a grieving process as well.
What I would say about grief is, there are things that can heal, and then genuine, huge grief sometimes never heals.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's not really, it's again, this is like, if you're like having a dark thing and taking with yourself, then you can allow yourself a lightness. It's the same part of a continuum, but it's again not either or. It also means then when the grief comes, as we thought about, you cannot now have a cheerful changing of the role. You need to let in
be
and
there.
Then you wait a little bit, because we said balance beam. For a moment when you are, together enough to allow yourself a little bit of play. So if you actually teach your creative self that she will appear also regularly.
I think it's so important, because it can be really hard to be like, I can't feel joy right now. That's what we think. This happened. I lost, my job is changing. How could I be joyful? But when we can tune into that, you know what I mean? We can learn to tune into that.
You just tell me. There is another rule of improv theater, which says, doesn't matter how you feel, but what's your purpose, go on stage and just do it. Which also for me was helpful in a situation when I was really depressed or feeling grief or something lost, where I don't want to do theater. And I can imagine people or whatever, not only theater, but anything joyful, you're not there.
And
after a while, going in a gym or whatever, it's you say, okay, I decide now to just go there and enter the stage. And after a while, just doing automatically something, the joy comes by itself. So that's opposite thing. You're not waiting for joy in order to do something joyful. You're doing something like, okay, Marija gave me the task, doesn't matter. But if you force yourself to do a couple of the stuff, your inner creative will wake up. So that's not even your will. The will is,
I love that. I think that's important. We don't, one of the things I wanted to ask you too, is a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm just not creative. Like I don't have a creative bone in my body. It's just not in me. What do you say to those people that might say something like that?
First, we are the fact that you are alive and you're a human being, you are creative already, because the moment you wake up and start imagining what you're going to eat for breakfast, that's already creativity. You're already what is happening in reality and with your inner spaces.
Right.
I don't think that we are all creative in the same level. Like nobody is equally talented for mathematics or mechanics or whatever. And there are people who are more creative than, so it's not everybody is creative the same. That's not the truth, but it's like, but the layers of creativity are everywhere and they are our essence. I really like, we have bodies and we have our blood, we have our passions. Everybody can fall in love, everybody can go to the deep grief, everybody, that belongs to our self, how we handle this situation, what we do with that, how we make story out of that or beauty out of that as much as we can. I mean, that's the only thing we can to tell the story, and maybe nothing else, but it still has this transcending effect or whatever to help you, have another perspective. So in that sense, and I think that, but that's easily go. People think that, and then after 5 minutes actually of talk or workshop, they forget even that they thought that they are not creative.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you have no choice but to be creative in those times, like when working with you, right? That's what you're tuning into. You said our creative self is linked to our bodies. You may have already touched on this, but I know we wanted to talk about this a little bit as well. So say more about that.
I worked a lot with the body. Our body is a marvelous thing, and it can say so many stories. How we talking about grief or joy or love, or everything. It's really based there, and this is our inner cats, as I say. How we experience the world through our senses. I think the COVID crisis now with this, it can be opening the door to something else, maybe bringing physical connection back into the way, which is maybe was disregarded before COVID. I mean, I'm amazed to learn how many people are actually not really hugging it.
I know.
For example, I was like, no, I didn't know that. We never talked about that before COVID. So it was the topic. And I was, saying, because now we had this, let's make a social distance, and then it was transferred into physical distance, and that's social distance. And I actually do think that physical distance is social distance. So they actually are the same. So taking care that there are 3 levels how you can connect with people. One part is touch. And another part is a proximity, that we are meter or something, but our bodies are still communicating. And then there is eyes, physical, up like 5-10 meters maybe, and then we do contact. And after that, it's gone. And virtual contact can be, it's part of the contact, but usually doesn't fit talking about our inner creative, doesn't fit that part of us. And then we can have illusion that we had enough contact and not ask it in a physical world, whatever it is, and then to go depressed, feeling depressed, isolated, apathetic, etc., which is usually consequence, I really think, of lack of contact. So when I work online with my clients or whatever, I really check if they live alone. I tell them just go and walk on the street if you can. Just proximity of other people. It's not the best contact in universe, but it's still contact, which recognizes. It's challenging thing with the COVID. I will not open that, but I think taking care of yourself, because I had the TaskHuman also client telling me she's feeling, isolated, depressed, and she cannot link it because she thought there is some reason with doesn't matter with the job. But I actually do think the part of this, apathy and isolation and stuff comes now from from limited physical contact too.
And I think so many people in their workplace are experiencing that, because a lot of people are still working from home. And I know that's a big thing for people. They're not seeing their friends in the office. They're not, but I also feel like too, this is just intuiting this. I don't know if this is even true, but this is just something that I'm thinking of. Tuning into our own bodies too can help us to reconnect. I feel like it's not getting outside, walking, of course, and like seeing other people and being in that, but also I think what you're teaching with a creative piece can also be important, because not only can we be disconnected from others during this time, but if we're also experiencing a disconnect from within our own bodies, that can make that even more intense. You know what I mean? Even more compounded. So like getting back in touch with our own creativity and our own bodies, dancing around the house, you know what I mean? And not being afraid and tuning into that.
But I think that's another part, like how you keep your body. But the part with the social thing, we're social beings. We're cats.
Absolutely.
So if you have a cat and then you talk to the cat on a Zoom for 3 days, she's gonna die. I mean, she doesn't care if you eventually talked on a Zoom. And there is part of us, which is that I'm saying we have another layers of us, which are cool, but our basics and this core is still an animal, and a very beautiful animal. And that animal carries our creativity. And in one point, it's very basic, but it's also place of our soul, I would say. You know, it's also very spiritual. So I think that this is another talk. I'm not an expert or whatever is happening now. Nobody's expert. But if you're lucky enough to not live alone, even if you have a pet or you have a family, then isolation, you can have another problems being packed, scheduled, overwhelmed. This is another thing. I'm not talking about that. But if you're living alone and then you actually don't have enough physical, social context, you literally can die. And that's a proven fact. It's something that you can go in complete feeling of depression and isolation. And that's, I think, extremely important to just know. Normal. So not to say, okay, now I'm talking and you can do it. You can do it for a week or 10 days, but it's really living without food. And touch, physical touch and connection with the people is our food. This is how
I think that's why TaskHuman is so important too, because we're really like reaching out to people who are isolated right now, or who feel like they have to be isolated for whatever reason, or some people just isolate themselves on a normal, you know what I mean? When we're not experiencing this, and it can be a lonely world no matter what is going on out in the world or within ourselves. And so that's why TaskHuman is so great as well, just trying to keep connections going, even if it has to be virtual and we can't be in person, or some people can't be, which I think is so wonderful. How else, is there any other ways that you're helping your TaskHuman clients? Any other success stories or anything you want to share about that too?
Since I joined you relatively recently, and I am still very excited to meet a lot of new clients. But the ones I met, I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed it more than I would expect of virtual communication.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, because what's different? And I'm still not sure what's different because I had some virtual coaching sessions, local one, which drained me. I mean, they were nice and beneficial, but I was 2 hours after that, I was like, oh my God, it's really energetically demanding. And then with TaskHuman, it was different. And I don't know why. There is maybe, I don't know, it maybe felt really personal. It felt like that someone just calls me. Because it wasn't pre-booked. It was just someone called me. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool. and then there is also this international moment, you know, that somehow, this feeling of closeness. And then we were talking about physical touch, and I think it's two different things, because then I said to my client, now, whatever you do, if you live alone, just go out, at least look at people for 10 minutes. And then come back. You need to take care of that part. But then this part, which we all feel emotional, cognitive, it was there. It was really, it was
good.
I know. Being close. That's funny. And I still don't know what,
maybe I love it. So many people can be scared to make a call, but like, it really is so, even with the coaches can sometimes feel like, oh, this is weird. But once you do it, you realize like how amazing it really is to be able to make that call.
Weird. I was expecting it to be like this Zoom call. Something is different. And I'm not sure, maybe because it's on a phone, maybe because I'm speaking English and I'm actually having, not only me, that we have different personalities when we speak language, by the way. So if you're beautiful or something, just use some other language and then you're going to provoke another personality talking about playing. But this is something with this, actually, or I maybe just was extremely lucky. Maybe I just get very nice clients. I don't know.
Everyone is so nice over the app. If you guys have not called, even all the coaches, make sure you're using TaskHuman and call in and connect with someone. That's really what it's about. But one thing I wanted to ask you too, that I had on here, one of the things you shared a story on your website about how when you were growing up or when you were younger, you often felt different. I feel like so many people out there could probably relate to just feeling that way at times, even if it's not all the time. So how do you build resilience around this part of yourself? What advice would you give to others who would say to you, I just feel different, you know?
I actually felt that I'm not belonging enough.
Yeah.
I never thought that I'm actually different. It took me ages
Yeah.
after 7,000 situations and feedback when people were telling me, oh, you are so weird. And I was like, why? It's kind of like, what's wrong? Because it's like, and I was like, so I used to spend my youth trying to be normal. This is probably normal. I have a friend who is, according to her, very normal, and she was trying to be so unique and wild and different.
Yeah.
And like, why the hell you would like to be wild and different? So this is human, when you have a curly hair, you want to have a straight hair or whatever.
Yeah, you want to fit in too.
Yeah, in a different way. But people who are fitting in too much, they're gonna actually feel different. So this is another part of suffering, which is I want to be so unique that everybody notice me, and I always has been unique, and everybody noticed me, and I wanted not to be unique.
Right. Yeah. That duality.
We talked a lot about continuum. Yep. I think it is both. Our sense for belonging is really necessary, as well as our sense that we are unique in some ways.
Yeah.
And it took probably, I think, years first to accept that my difference also brings a lot of gifts.
I love it. Yeah.
There is this, I still sometimes want to be very normal. It's like, I would be happy that I fit in a different versions more. Yeah. But then I remember there are a lot of different things which my talents or how I look at the world brought to me. And that's it. Work with the facts. What I would like to be, that's not going to be. It is what it is. So then accepting that with love, and then finding your tribe. This is like your animal, finding people who actually loves you. 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter, but and for them you're not different. They just love you. You're. I think that's, for me, that was crucial. That at least you have someone who can,
accept you. And it's about accepting and working with those parts of yourself, which it sounds too like this is something you can help people with through these techniques. It all just seems so relevant to building teamwork, to addressing workplace turbulence, to working on yourself, your inner acceptance, unleashing your own creativity. It's just such a unique approach.
I had the clients who were attracted to me. They're my opposite in terms like having a tendency not to really voice their needs or express themselves freely in order to blend in. So this is this need for belonging.
Right.
And then you are not there. And I was the opposite. Like, for me, it's very easy to be spontaneous and
do whatever. Yeah.
Then the part of it was that you're not really belonging every time. And then it has its consequences. So it's really, again, balancing
a dance.
A dance.
When you think about it, there's so many dualities in life that we're all like, it's like we're just literally dancing through life with the different dualities. I think that sums up what we just talked about. Dancing with the different dualities of life. You know what I mean? And it's like, But
I think that company as a system, for example, business company is doing the same.
Right. Exactly what they're doing right now. Right. So that turbulence is actually still that dance through life. I love this. Yeah. This has been so great. I just love what you do. I think it's such a unique approach and it's so fun. And you're able to help not only like large companies and corporations, but also like small teams and then individuals, of course, as well. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone before we wrap up?
Yeah. I think not really. I would like to meet some of my new clients and I would like them to be wonderful.
Yeah. If you're on TaskHuman and you have not called Marija yet, make sure you do so. As you can tell, she's a lot of fun. You guys will have fun and laugh. And
I had an idea to make a book out of your experimentation. For me, this is how my art is talking. When you play Jamie in your real life and then you come back with the stories.
Yeah.
If they can be crazy and it can be sometimes horrible. I had a client who was coaching on a conflict transformation and then she was really scared in one point of like, wow, if things goes horrible. And then I'm not very comforting in that sense. And then I said, yeah, probably they can't go horrible. And then she said, oh my God, you're supposed to say, no, that's life. Things can seriously go horrible. But until we are alive, things can, this is what we are. we need to manage that. So for me, this
Yeah.
is like encountering life
Yeah.
with all this strength, and maybe not living a perfect life, but eventually try to live life which has love. And I think love is important, and which have all of your presence, whatever that is. I think that gives this fullness. So yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
very much into perfect life, but everybody is into perfect life in order, like, you know, we would like to tick our boxes first, but then the life also has its own, how to say, rules. And then until we are alive, let's have fun at least, or try to.
Yeah. And if you're out there and you're working through a turbulence of some kind, maybe it is in the workplace, or maybe it's within your team at work, or maybe it's just a personal issue, definitely reach out to Marija. I think it's going to be so important. You're going to have so much fun, and to tap into that creative side. We all have it, right?
When we have fun, we also cry, but that's also cool. This is
exactly. It's accepting all of it, just being who you are.
Very close. So if you're already crying, you're already other part of Continuum is already active.
Yes, I love it. That's great. Thank you again. I'm going to wrap up because I know we're getting a little short on time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Marija, for joining us. And yeah, go out there and just unleash your creative sides. And if you need help doing it, make sure you call Marija on TaskHuman. And that's it for today's episode. Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Marija. And I'll see you guys next time.